Welcome to the Planet Lighting instructional video for the installation of the HLS system. We're going to go through the two different types of mini pucks, and then we're going to go through the drill jig and the method for installation into a standard pipe. So to introduce the two types of pucks, we have a standard puck here and what's known as a thin wall puck. The difference between these two is that the standard puck has a shoulder here at the end of the thread, and the thin wall puck has the thread going all the way to the end. The difference between these two types is that a standard puck is suitable for pipe or tube which is 2.5mm wall thickness or greater, whereas the thin wall puck is suitable for pipe or tube which is 1.5mm wall thickness or greater. The other difference is, when it comes to installation, is that the standard puck requires a counterbore hole, whereas the thin wall puck only requires just an M16x1 tapped hole. So we're going to go through the three parts of the drill jig now. It consists of the clamp piece, the drilling and counterboring piece, and the tapping piece. The clamping piece consists of a clamping pliers and clamping chain. We've got a female coupling here and a level here which is used for setting the angle of the clamp when it's on the pipe. On the drilling and counterboring piece, we've got a 15mm hole cutter for drilling the hole, a 16mm hole cutter for counterboring in the case of a standard puck. We've got the male coupling which fits into the female coupling of the clamping piece. We've got the counterboring depth setting nut which is used for setting the depth of the counterbore, and the spigot at the end for the drill to attach to. On the tapping piece, we've got an M16x1 tap, a male coupling for fitting into the female coupling on the clamp, and then again a spigot for the drill to connect up to. Okay, so now we're preparing to drill the holes into the pipe. The first step is to mark out where you want your holes. That's usually given in a drawing, or the spacings might be specified by the client. But for the case of this example, we're just going to say that there's going to be one there, and we're going to say 300mm spacing, and we're going to have another one there. So we've got our two holes marked out, ready to go. Okay, so now we're going to do the actual drilling process itself, and this begins by introducing the clamp to the rail at the location that we'd nominated earlier. So we put the chain around and clamp it on. We make sure that the bubble of the level is in the middle of the indicator. This is currently set to 30 degrees, and so now the clamp is clamped to the pipe at 30 degrees. We move the chain back out of the way, and most importantly we put on safety goggles because there is the chance of swarf being released from the clamp. So now we're going to put some cutting fluid onto the tips of the hole cutter, the 15mm hole cutter. We push the release sleeve on the female coupling up and put the male coupling in. So now that's come back down, it's locked in place, and we're ready to start drilling. Now, there's two different procedures depending on whether we're drilling for a standard puck or a thin wall puck. For a thin wall puck, we're going to drill the 15mm hole, and then we're going to move the counterboring depth setting nut down so that the 16mm counterbore can't make contact with the pipe. And that way we make sure that no matter what happens, we don't do any counterboring. If we're going to be doing a standard puck and we want counterboring, then the next step is we'll go through the process of setting the depth setting nut to be the correct depth for the counterbore. Okay, so now we're going to start drilling. We've got our battery drill, we've got it set to the lower speed, we've got it going in clockwise direction, we've got our safety glasses on, and we're ready to start drilling. Okay, so now the 15mm cutter's gone through the pipe, we've felt the load come off the battery drill, and now we're ready to set the counterbore depth setting nut. In the case of a thin wall puck, we're not going to want a counterbore, and so what we do is we screw this all the way up so that it's a safety feature so that the counterboring can't occur. And what that does is it just makes sure that the back of the body can't go any more forward, and so the 16mm cutter can't make contact with the pipe. In the case of a standard puck, we're going to want a counterbore, and so the way that we do that is that we wind the depth setting nut back and then wind the back body in until the 16mm cutter makes contact with the pipe, and you'll feel it because it'll stop. So that's it, it's made contact with the pipe. Then we bring the depth setting nut forward until it touches the back cover of the main body, and now we're going to back this nut off by 1 3/4 turns. Now the way that we do that is that there are 4 slots on the back of this body, and so 1 3/4 turns is going to be, if we count 7 slots counterclockwise. So using the grub screw as an indicator, we're going to turn around once and then 3/4. So that's 7 slots we've gone around, and now we're ready to lock this nut in position. This is the same procedure whether we're setting the depth setting nut for a standard or a thin wall puck. The important thing is that the grub screw engages in one of these slots, not on the thread, so that there's no damage done to the thread. We use the Allen key provided in the kit, and we tighten it up like so. So now the depth setting nut is now set at whatever depth we require. Okay, so assuming we're preparing a hole for a standard puck, we're going to need the counterbore. We've set the depth setting nut to the correct counterbore, and so we're ready now to do the counterbore. Again, we've got the drill set to slow, set to clockwise, and straight away you can feel the clutch begins to slip after the counterbore's been done. So the counterbore has been completed, and now we put it into reverse and back the tool back out until the cutter is free from the pipe. So cutter's free, and we're ready now to take the drilling piece out and put the tapping piece in. We make sure that there's no swarf in the hole. So now we've got the 16mm, the M16x1 tap. Again, push the releasing sleeve up, let it come down. Again, we've set the drill to clockwise, we're at the lowest speed. Engage it. And you can feel once the tap's been done, the load again comes off the battery drill, and you can reverse out. Reverse out, release it, and that hole's done. So the hole's completed. We check it for burrs or sharp edges, and if there are any, you just give it a light file with the file provided in the kit. And that hole's ready for a puck. Okay, so the hole's now free from burrs, and we're ready to just put a test puck in to make sure that everything's correct, including the depth of the counterbore. Okay, so we're going to drill the second hole now. The only difference between this and the first hole is that we don't need to go through the depth setting process for the counterbore, because that was already done in the first hole. So we clamp it on to our desired location, making sure that the angle is correct. Get the chain out of the way. Add the cutting fluid to the cutter. Push the releasing sleeve up. Introduce the cutter, make sure that the battery drill is set to clockwise, and begin drilling. Okay, so the 15mm hole's cut now, and now we're going to proceed with the 16mm counterbore. That's done, and we reverse it back out until the cut is clear from the pipe, and now we're ready to do the tap. Make sure there's no swarf there. Introduce the tap. Ensure that the drill is clockwise. And so now the hole is drilled and tapped and it's ready to be checked for burrs. There's no burrs there. So that hole's now ready. Okay, so we're just going to test that hole. And that is perfect. So the most important thing is that if you've got any questions or if there's anything that you're not sure about, you check with Planet Lighting first before you proceed, because it's much easier to fix something before it happens than after.